NFL teams will make the playoffs this season. What's going on, football fans? It's Mitch here, back with another NFL prediction video. And in this video, I predict all 14 NFL playoff teams for the 2024 season. That's right, 7 from the AFC, 7 from the NFC. These are spoilers and not just predictions. Gronk, spike the like button. Don't forget to subscribe for more OwnersBox Fantasy NFL content just like this. Also, let me know in the comments your opinion on my 14 playoff teams for this NFL season. I'll also mention the teams that almost make the playoffs, but just miss. And I will have a few new playoff teams from last year, as well as a couple controversial takes. So, stay tuned to the end. Let's begin with the AFC and the most obvious playoff team for 2024. That is the Kansas City Chiefs. Not only are they back-to-back two-time Super Bowl champs the last 2 years, with 3 collectively between Reed, Mahomes, Kelce, Jones, and the core of this Chiefs dynasty, but also they have a very easy division. I can't see the Raiders, Chargers, or Broncos making the playoffs, or even being that close. Truly. The Chiefs, I think, have a top 10 offense, a top 10 defense, and even without L'Jarius Sneed, I think they feature one of the best pass defenses, one of the most complicated schemes for offenses to break down under Steve Spagnuolo. Chris Jones, Trent McDuffie, Nick Bolton, every level of their defense features elite players. Shout out to Justin Reed and George Karlaftis as well. And offensively, they have a very strong interior 3 on the offensive line. Isaiah Pacheco might have a huge breakout year. This could be his year to really take off. Rashee Rice, same thing with him at wide receiver. And I like the additions of Hollywood Brown as probably a third receiver, because Xavier Worthy could be different. With his speed, he could be a real deep threat in year 1. They could also get him involved in the screen game. Travis Kelce is Travis Kelce. We're going to have the Taylor Swift propaganda and shenanigans, but it's going to be a lot of fun to watch. I think the Chiefs will be more fun to watch because of their offense being cleaner and better. So I think the Chiefs will be a top 2 seed in the AFC, not only because they're very good, but also because their division sucks. Moving to the AFC South, I see 2 teams from this division making it, but the first is the obvious pick, and that's the Houston Texans winning the division. The Houston Texans have CJ Stroud, in my opinion, already an elite quarterback. He is one of the most accurate quarterbacks in the league. He's able to go above and beyond the system and the structure of what the Texans look to achieve on offense. He can make plays out of thin air, and now he has one of the most fabulous, fantastic receiver trios we've seen in recent seasons. Stephon Diggs, Tank Dell, and Nico Collins. Dalton Schultz, Joe Mixon, also great complementary pieces to this offense. I think the Texans will see an uptick in passing, which will mean a lot of explosive plays and probably a lot of points. And also Stroud, I wouldn't be shocked if he won the MVP this year. I really am that high on this offense. Bobby Slowick calling plays and this receiving core. Then you look at the defense. I think you could also see this unit rise to the top 10 thanks to additions of Danielle Hunter and at linebacker, Azeez Al-Shaair. I think D'Amico having a second offseason to build with this unit of young playmakers is going to be a big deal. I really like the speed at linebacker. I love their pass rush with Will Anderson, Hunter, Autry. I like Derek Stingley entering his 3rd season in the NFL where he could take a huge step to being a Pro Bowl level corner. I think that the Texans will have one of the most well-rounded rosters and teams in 2024. I see them as a top 3 AFC seed. Now, the other team from the AFC South that I think could make it is Jacksonville. I am going to pick the Jags to make the playoffs as the AFC's 7 seed. I want to give a quick shout out to the Colts and the Titans, teams that I think have immense upside, especially Tennessee after they just traded for Ernest Jones, which I think is very exciting and fills one of their biggest weaknesses. But I'm going with Jacksonville because they have the better quarterback out of the 3 teams. And I think Jacksonville is being slept on because late last season, they fell apart. Down the stretch, they just were not a very good team. And Trevor Lawrence was clearly derailed by the injuries that he suffered last year. Trevor Lawrence looks a lot better this offseason. I think people are forgetting about how good he can be at his peak, which is a borderline top 10 talent at the quarterback position. Also, a Super Bowl winning coach, Doug Peterson. That complement, that combination is top 7 in the AFC. You throw in some really good playmakers like Brian Thomas out of the draft, Christian Kirk in the slot, Evan Ingram at tight end, even Gabe Davis to stretch the field. And then, of course, Travis Etienne, the multi-dimensional back. I think that the Jags can really score some points, move the ball through the air on the ground, and they can really win against any opponent because I see them as a well-rounded team. I think they can outscore teams, but I think Ryan Nielsen's defense will step it up. Eric Armstead added to the D-line alongside Roy Robertson-Harris, and of course, Trayvon Walker along with Josh Allen. That's sneaky one of the best front fours in the league. Lloyd behind that with Oluokun is an excellent linebacker duo. And I think that the secondary is a little bit deeper and perhaps a little bit better this year with a guy like Andre Sisco maybe taking that step forward. So look out for Jacksonville. I really like their coaching. I really think Trevor Lawrence is being slept on, and I feel like the defense will ascend to a different level this year. So I think Jacksonville will win about 9 or 10 games and just squeak into the playoffs as the 7 seed. Now, the AFC North, I think, will only feature 2 teams making the playoffs this year. It is the best division in football, but that also means a lot of competition and a lot of teams beating up on each other. So I don't see the Steelers or the Browns, unfortunately, making the playoffs. Despite both having phenomenal defenses, they both could make the playoffs, but I just do not have enough confidence in either team's quarterback, along with both having very difficult schedules. I just don't see the consistency with both of these teams. Unless their defenses carry them, they also have great coaching staffs, but unless their defense carries them, I just don't see how these teams put it together for double-digit wins this year. I'm very low on Deshaun Watson and Russell Wilson and Justin Fields, and this offense as a whole in Pittsburgh has not looked the part in the preseason. Now, the 2 teams that I think will make it, first, I think the Bengals will win the division this year, and I think the Ravens will be the wild card. Now, the Bengals will win the division because they have the easier schedule. They're the more motivated team. They added and did not lose pieces. And I think when Joe Burrow is healthy, he is an elite quarterback that whenever he is on the field and healthy, they basically make the AFC Championship. So Joe Burrow with Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, the plethora of youthful receivers they have as 3s and 4s, along with the offensive line that I think is the best of Joe Burrow's career with Trent Brown being added to the right tackle position, I think will make them one of the most potent passing attacks in all of football. I'm not really scared about their running back position. I think the defense looks the part so far this offseason. They improved at safety with Geno Stone and Von Bell. I think that the D-line will be a bit better against the run this year. I like Pratt and Logan Wilson in the middle, and I think that Cam Taylor-Britt will ascend to a top corner status. So I look at the Bengals and I say, I think they could be a very complete team, and I just think they're going to outpace teams through their passing attack, which is going to put a lot of pressure on other offenses to match them. I think their defense is very opportunistic, very schematically diverse under Big Game Lou, and I think that allows the Bengals to win 12 or 13 games and maybe even be the AFC's number 1 seed. The wildcard team will be the Ravens. They'll drop and kind of regress from last year after being AFC's number 1 seed and probably the most dominant team in the regular season. But I felt like last year was their moment and they missed that moment. And sometimes that happens in sports. They lost a few pieces that I think are crucial to them. They lost 3 starting offensive linemen. They lost a starting safety in Geno Stone, a starting linebacker in Patrick Queen, and their best edge rusher in Jadeveon Clowney. And those pieces, along with the coaching that they lost, Mike McDaniel and the other position coaches that became the Titans defensive coordinator and the Dolphins defensive coordinator, Weaver and Wilson, I believe it is. Those 2 guys being missed, a brain drain has been had in Baltimore. So, yes, Derrick Henry's there. Yes, Mark Andrews should be healthy. I like Isaiah Likely. I like Zay Flowers. But I just feel like this team is good, but not as good as it was. So I see them at like 11 wins, a more difficult schedule than the Bengals. Lamar is still going to be awesome, but the O-line is a question mark. And I don't love the depth of the receiving core. I also feel like the defense, without the best defensive mind in football, is due to take a step back. So I think the Ravens are talented, yes. Very, very consistent, yes. I think they should still have a top 10 offense and a top 10 defense. I just don't view it as that same level of 2023. But they will make it as the AFC's 5 seed. Now, to finish off with the AFC East, I have 2 teams making the playoffs. First, the division winner, and second, the wild card, of course. Now, the question is, who will win the division? Because I think there's 3 teams that could argue to win the division. Now, the team that I have on the outside looking in is the Miami Dolphins. And I have the Miami Dolphins on the outside looking in because I don't trust the line of scrimmage play for them. Early in the year, they'll be missing key defensive pieces up front. They lost Christian Wilkins. They lost Davis up front this offseason. And I think that's really going to hurt them against the run, but also their pass rush early in the year. Chubb, Phillips, how healthy will they be for the entire season and when they come back? This is a very injured team. They're already dealing with injuries across the roster. They're very old, and I could see the offensive line really having a tough time protecting Tua. Now, I love Tyreek. I love Waddle. I think Jonnu was a nice add. I think the 3 running backs are all dynamic and very fast, and I think they should score points because Mike McDaniel is a wizard, but the defense scares me a bit. The division is very difficult. The schedule is absolutely brutal over the last stretch of the season, and that's when the Dolphins will wear down, get injured with all these older players. Teron Armstead in and out of the lineup, all that stuff. So I see Miami winning like 9 games and just missing the playoffs just because of the way they've built their team and what they've lost this offseason. Multiple good offensive linemen, good defensive linemen. That's really going to add up at the end of the day. So I have the Buffalo Bills winning the division. The Buffalo Bills have the best quarterback in the division, Josh Allen. I think that they have a very sturdy defense, even despite losing Matt Milano. I think they still got quality depth on the D-line, led by Gregory Rousseau and Ed Oliver. And if Von Miller can get his head out of his rear end, I think that could really allow the Bills to be better on the D-line this year. I also love their corners, and I feel like their safeties are slept on. The offensive line was very good last year. I think they're going to run the ball well with James Cook. I think Dalton Kincaid could take a step forward. And as you guys know from my fantasy videos, Khalil Shakir could be an absolute sleeper at receiver. But I think Curtis Samuel, as well as Coleman, the rookie, will contribute with some plays. Maybe even Mac Hollins as well. But Allen is just too good for me to bet against him. He is a one-man wrecking crew. He will win this division and be the AFC's 4 seed. Then, as the 6 seed in the AFC, I have Aaron Rodgers Jets. Yes, I have Aaron Rodgers Jets. I do believe in them because they have such a strong defense led by Robert Saleh and also Sauce Gardner, Quinnen Williams. I really like their corners. I really like their D-line. I think Mosley and Quincy Williams are one of the best, if not the best linebacker duo in football. And the offensive line is rebuilt with 3 new pieces, arguably 4, with Elijah Vera Tucker coming back from injury, Garrett Wilson, hopefully a healthy Mike Williams eventually, and then Breece Hall, who's one of the most dynamic runners in football. So if Rodgers is healthy and he just manages the game and makes a few throws every game, I think they should be able to get 10 wins. They should be able to get there, and they should be able to make the playoffs. The schedule isn't too tough. There's just a lot of primetime games. So those are my AFC playoff teams, and those are the teams that I think realistically should and could make the playoffs in the AFC. In the NFC, we are going to start once again in the NFC West, where I think it's one of the trickiest divisions to predict. First, I think that the Niners should pretty easily win the division, but who will come second is kind of the biggest question to me. So the 49ers will win the division. I also think they could finish as the NFC's number 1 seed, but I do believe they'll at least be in the top 2. So let's put that there. Now, the 49ers, they have Brock Purdy entering year 3 with the first ever full offseason of him being the starter under Kyle Shanahan, which is just different. It's a different level of experience, a different level of progression and understanding of the offense, and that could make Purdy his most potent of his career. Then we have the whole Brandon Ayuk and Trent Williams fiascos, but I believe they'll be back at least within the first month of the season, if not week 1, ready to rock, and especially Ayuk. I think he'll be there. But then we look at Deebo Samuel, who I think is having a great offseason. I've heard everything promising about him and him really being, I feel, in the peak of his career right now. Christian McCaffrey, who's coming off arguably the best, most recognized season of his career. Maybe not statistically the best, but arguably his most well-rounded campaign. He's also on the Madden cover, so you got to watch out for the curse, but I think he'll be okay. And then we have, really good depth at running back. Jordan Mason looks like a really promising number 2. The offensive line could be improved thanks to a rookie in Dominic Pooney. And then also, I think that the O-line in general should be improved just because of the cohesion. They didn't lose anybody. So I feel like McKivitz entering year 2 as a starter, that should really be nice. I think all these guys, you're just playing together. That's a step forward in one of their weakness areas from a year ago that they might be able to get better in. Ricky Pearsall, Jawan Jennings, quality depth at wide receiver as well. They are arguably the best offense in the sport. Then you have the defense that I think actually will be better this year than last year. It took a step back last year due to the play calling that got Steve Wilkes eventually fired. And I think that Brandon Staley / Sorensen will be a dynamic duo for this defense. I think they're going to get back to the Niners style that we know and love. Fast, physical, simple, but effective. And I think their corner position is deeper and better this offseason with the additions they made in the draft, from Green to the additions they made in free agency. I think their safety position is faster, more physical. Hufanga will be back soon. I think that Brown will take a step forward. And I also love the draft pick of Mustafa. I think that Devondre Campbell gives them quality linebacker depth that they didn't have last year, as well as some of the younger guys like D. Winters really showing out to help replace Dre Greenlaw for when he comes back eventually. Fred Warner is fantastic in the middle. They've got a very good D-line with Javon Hargrave, Nick Bosa, Leonard Floyd, etc. So I'm not worried. Malik Collins, also huge addition to replace Eric Armstead. So there's questions about this franchise and this team with Brandon Ayuk, Trent Williams, and even to a certain degree, guys like Hufanga and Dre Greenlaw. But I think overall, this team will be peaking at the right time come December. I think that might cost them the 1 seed, but I think they'll probably be flirting with the 2. So I think that the Niners are going to be excellent and probably the favorite in the NFC come playoff time to get back to the Super Bowl. Then we have in the NFC West at least one playoff team that should be added, right? So my question is, I don't think the Cardinals are going to be that team just because the Cardinals, yes, have a fantastic, fun offense led by Kyler Murray, but just no defense, right? So then we look at Seattle and we look at Los Angeles Rams. A lot of people are sleeping on Seattle. Like, they are definitely sleeping on Seattle. So to me, I think the Rams maybe are the more popular pick because they have Sean McVay, Matthew Stafford. They have an excellent offense, like a really fantasy-friendly offense with Kyron Williams and Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua. But after they just traded Ernest Jones, that means they are without their defensive coordinator from last year, a new head coach, Raheem Morris, the best defensive tackle I've ever seen, Aaron Donald, and one of the 10 best linebackers in the league, Ernest Jones. A defense last year that was already lacking talent as it was. If Stafford misses a couple games, if Kupp misses a couple games, this team just feels extremely thin and extremely fragile. So I am going to actually remove the Rams from my initial playoff prediction, and I am going to put the Seahawks in for sure. I really like the Seahawks because I think they've got a nice blend of a highly potent and explosive offense with all of their receivers and the running back Kenneth Walker, DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, Jackson Smith-Njigba, Noah Fant, explosive playmakers, Geno Smith who can get them the ball. He's not amazing. He's not Stafford, but he is good. And the O-line can't be worse than last year. I think it will probably be a bit better. And the offensive scheme, I'm excited for the pace that they'll play at. I'm excited for the 11 personnel, 3 receiver formations. I'm excited for them just throwing the ball more. I'm excited for Kenneth Walker's 3-down activity. I'm just excited for the Seahawks offense. But more importantly, I think the Seahawks defense is much, 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 much better than the Rams. They've got 2 corners that I love in Woolen when he's at his best, and of course Devin Witherspoon. Julian Love's fantastic at safety. I like their linebackers led by Jerome Baker. And the D-line, I think, is one of the nastiest in the NFL, especially on the interior with Byron Murphy, Leonard Williams. Jerron Reed, Draymond Jones, just great depth. I am a little bit worried about their edge spot right now with the injury to Nwosu, but I think that they're going to be a very good defense, along with having a very explosive, maybe a tad inconsistent because the O-line, but explosive offense. So Seahawks will make it as my 6th seed in the NFC. Now, to the NFC South. I have only one team here, and it's going to be the division winner. I was initially on the Bucs to start the offseason, but I'm actually shifting to the Falcons. And the reason for that is the Falcons, they added Matt Judon, they added Justin Simmons. Two of their biggest weaknesses, safety and edge for sure, like pass rush in general, were huge weaknesses for them. You add those two veterans that will contribute right away and contribute at a high level right now. Maybe a little past their peak, but still very good players. I think that will drastically change this team because now you've got a pass rusher to get sacks, to get pressures, to end drives, and you have a safety that can be a ball hawk, make plays, create turnovers, along with Jesse Bates, AJ Terrell, Grady Jarrett, David Onyemata, underrated linebackers. I think they have enough out there on defense to get the job done, along with an offense in a division that should be the best, right? They have the best offensive line in the division. They arguably have the best quarterback in the division when he's healthy. They have the best running back in the division. They have a very good wide receiver 1, Drake London. Darnell Mooney was a savvy little wide receiver 2 addition, and Kyle Pitts has as much talent as anyone at tight end. So they have enough to do it. If Zach Robinson is what we think he is with that Sean McVay-inspired offense, and but Raheem Morris, maybe the new Raheem Morris, but Raheem Morris, a guy that I think could inspire this defense. So he did a great job with the Rams defense last year. That was very manned. So the Falcons, I think, will win like 10, 11 games. They'll probably win this division. The Bucs would be the team that I'd consider for a wild card spot or even to win this division to compete with the Falcons. But I think it's time for a new winner in the South, and I think it will be the Falcons. So moving to the NFC North, I think there could be 2 or maybe even 3 teams in this division that make the playoffs. First, I think the Lions will repeat as division champs. It won't be easy because I think the Packers will be a better team, and I would argue that the Packers might have a higher ceiling than the Lions, but that might not come till the end of the year. And I'll explain why in a second. But the Lions, I have winning the division because I think they're more consistent. I think there's more of a known quantity to them. We've got Jared Goff at quarterback. We've got a great offensive line, probably the best in the league. There's still also a young roster that's ascending. Jahmyr Gibbs, Sam Laporta, Amon-Ra, right? Jamison Williams could be ascending. Jack Campbell could be ascending. Brian Branch could be ascending, right? They added to their biggest weaknesses and fixed them. Carlton Davis at corner, Terrion Arnold at corner, another rookie. I like Melon Fonwu. I like Anzalone. I think that DJ Reader is a great addition. I think Trey Hendrickson could have not Trey Hendrickson, the other white pass rusher, Mitch, Aiden Hutchinson, Suns, right? Those guys, I feel like all of them could be better. All of them could be improved. Like, there's no doubt about it. Also, though, I think there's something dealing with the Lions in terms of like, the NFC was really weak last year, so if they do kind of like regress in some way, shape, or form, it wouldn't be shocking. It just would feel surprising given the coaching staff they have, especially Ben Johnson, who I love, the consistency of the O-line play, the improvements they've made on defense, and the potency of their offense. It would be surprising given what they did last year, but I still think they'll win this division at 11 or 12 wins. Then you've got the Green Bay Packers, who I think have a very high ceiling given all the youthful talent they have, the receiving core that could all break out at the same time, from Christian Watson to Wicks to Dobbs and, of course, Reed. These guys are all fantastic. I think that Musgrave's also a breakout candidate. Josh Jacobs could provide a steady running back presence. The O-line is very good, and Jordan Love could be an MVP type of quarterback this year. I wouldn't be shocked. He's got so much talent in that right arm. So, yeah, Jordan Love, Matt LaFleur, that's a great combination for the future of Green Bay. It's going to continue to go forward and up this year because I think the defense will be greatly improved with a new defensive coordinator. The pass rush is very talented, very deep. I think they could improve drastically there. The secondary needs to stay healthy. If it does, Xavier McKinney being added should really help them come together as a unit. So I could see a top half defense along with a top 5 offense, making them a very challenging team to play in the NFC North. But I have them as a wild card right now. I could see them ultimately, though, maybe being one of those wild cards that's more dangerous than their division winner in the Lions, just because of when Jordan Love gets hot and when this youthful team all hits their peak at the right time entering the playoffs, just like last year. They could be as dangerous as anybody. So Packers will make the playoffs. And I am actually going to go with the Chicago Bears to replace the Los Angeles Rams making the playoffs as my 7 seed. It's crazy. I know I'm picking Caleb Williams, but I'm buying the hype, I guess. Caleb is very, very talented. Caleb can make magic out of nothing. The O-line, I think, is better than people think overall. It's young. It should be heading in the right direction this year. Shane Waldron as the coordinator, I think, is going to provide some balance to the play calling. DeAndre Swift brings, a receiving element from the backfield. I like Khalil Herbert. I think they've got multiple tight ends, Cole Kmet, Gerald Everett, that they can utilize. 3 receivers that are all very good. Keenan Allen might be fat right now, but just slim him down a little bit. He'll still be running routes like nobody's business. Then you've got DJ Moore, who's dynamic at all 3 levels. And of course, you've got the other receiver from the draft, Rome Odunze, who already has that kind of like brotherhood connection with Caleb Williams. So I love the receiving core. I think they've got a dynamic offense, probably a pretty balanced offense, and a young quarterback that can make plays and is very confident. And this team has a great aura and feeling to them. Now, defensively, I think they're very solid to end the season last year. I don't think they're going to be elite, but I think they'll be very solid, very good. The D-line, I think they should maybe add another pass rusher, but Montez Sweat, they're good against the run. The linebackers are very athletic and are very good in coverage in Edmonds and Edwards. The safeties, I love Brisker. I like the addition of Kevin Byard, and the corners could be one of the most slept on cornerback trios in football, led by Jalen Johnson. I think that Eberflus did a great job with this team at the end of last year. I'm buying into their ascension. I'm buying into the schedule being a little bit easier than a team like the Rams, because the Rams made the playoffs, the Bears did not. I think the Bears make it at like 9-8. They just get in. You look at the schedule and it feels manageable. The Vikings, I don't think, really have a chance in this division because the other 3 teams are so good, despite their coaching staff and the skill talent that they do possess. In the NFC East, I've got one team making it. That's right. So the Dallas Cowboys will be eliminated this year. I don't see them making it this season. After winning 12 games, it feels like 3 years in a row under Mike McCarthy. I think they'll drop to about 9 wins and just miss out. They could definitely make it. Don't get me wrong, just because of Dak, Parsons, CD. I think they could make it, but I don't like the vibes. Bland getting hurt certainly hurts the defense. Quinn to Zimmer is interesting. I don't know, man. They could make it, but I'm just not buying them this year. I think the Eagles make it. I think the Eagles win the division. If the Cowboys did, I wouldn't be shocked, but I think the Eagles are more steady on the O-line and more steady on the D-line. I also like their coordinators quite a bit. Kellen Moore, the former Cowboys offensive coordinator, I think will bring a spin to their offense with all the talent they have. I mean, Devontae Smith, A.J. Brown, Dallas Goedert, Jahan Dotson now, Saquon Barkley, even Kenneth Gainwell, guys that can create, right? Saquon really upgrades the running back spot. Their O-line is phenomenal, even post Jason Kelce. Jalen Hurts is healthy and should be great this year. I'm really looking forward to seeing how Kellen Moore calls plays for him. It should be a different type of Jalen Hurts that we've ever seen. I'd like to see him get back to using his legs more this year. And then defensively, they should just not be a disaster. Like last year, they were a complete disaster. They couldn't tackle, they couldn't run, they couldn't cover, they couldn't do anything. But Jalen Carter's a monster. I think that Huff and also Sweat are guys that are in their prime on the edge, and they've got good depth like Brandon Graham, Nolan Smith. Linebackers are probably a weakness for them, but the safeties are improved with Cooper DeJean and CJ Gardner-Johnson, as well as the corners being improved with young Quinyon Mitchell. Avonte Maddox is also back. So the Eagles are just a very stacked team, very dense at all positions. It's hard for me to imagine them not being successful with improvement with coordinators like Vic Fangio and Kellen Moore. So I have the Eagles winning 12 games and winning this division. Cowboys could flirt with 9 or 10, but I just see them missing. And I'm going to go with the sexier selection in the Chicago Bears. So those are my playoff teams, guys. In the AFC, I have the Chiefs, the Texans, the Bills, the Bengals, and then my wild cards, I've got the Ravens, the Jets, and the Jags. In the NFC, the 49ers, the Lions, the Eagles, the Falcons, and then as the wild cards, I've got the Packers, the Seahawks, and the Bears, with teams like Miami, Dallas, just missing out. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed, Gronk spike the like button. Don't forget to subscribe for more NFL predictions just like this. It's Mitch. Peace.